I got some text messages from people that wanted me to let them know ahead of time so they could sit outside and beer and watch.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough, I get it.
There was a couple.
They did say that they were.
I got home.
Chris has been watching Dark Skies.
I'll throw you in the two of my kids. He mentioned he has some thoughts. He went to Rome and then.
Hey,
Good, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Navy.
Just don't go in August.
No.
No.
How are you?
Got to get you out of here in time for that big birthday.
Yeah, that's right. Don't.
No dawdling tonight. We're gonna be quick to the gavel.
You take your time, I'm on your schedule.
Did you drive from Rome to Malta?
Yeah. Well, yes, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know if you rented a car.
No, I didn't drive.
I like Bronx steak crust.
You know, Jim.
Yeah.
I think. Hi, Sue. How are you? I think she has a really good chance.
But it was good. I go back there.
Oh, yeah, I think she does. Well, Joe said if it smells like a rat, it's probably a rat.
Yep.
Hey, folks, just keep in mind the mics are hot right now, so anything you say, even if you're not sitting by a mic, can be picked up as part of the ambient audio. I was talking to Lorraine Hennessy, your cousin.
Oh,
She was great.
I love her.
She looks good, and
She's
she had a great time at the reunion. And yeah,
awesome.
she used to be had a really good, like a crazy personality. She's very nice, though.
Think the world of her.
Oh yeah. All right.
So we've got what's that? No one.
Yep.
Bring so much paperwork
Oh,
with me, man. It's just.
All right. If I get everybody to stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, another reminder that the mics in here are live. Even if you're not sitting by one, it will pick your voice up. So just keep that in mind. All right, first thing, I'm going to make a motion to open the May 16th, 2022 business meeting of the Village Board of Cornwall and Hudson. May I have a second? All in favor? Aye. Aye. All right. The first item of business is a good one. Miss Susan Lennon, who's sitting in the front row, we go way back. I didn't realize that until we had a conversation recently, but our daughters were a little different ages, but played on the great Cornwall High School volleyball teams. They're still great, but they really kind of were the teams that kind of started the great era that the Moultons have really pushed forward. So Miss Lennon reached out to me. She is currently the tobacco program manager at the American Lung Association. American Lung Association is a very important nonprofit that does a lot of research and a lot of good things regarding one of our body's most critical organs, because it's one organ, right? Even though it's two lungs, but it's one organ. So you do want to have two in there. And so I'm pretty certain, just like with cancer, there's not too many families that in some way, shape, or form have not been touched by problems with people's lungs and lung cancer especially. So Ms. Lennon asked us as a village board to put together a proclamation. This proclamation is going to serve on behalf of the village board, and it begins like this. Whereas every 2.5 minutes in America, a person in these United States is diagnosed with lung cancer, and whereas lung cancer is the leading cause of cancer deaths for women and men across the country, and whereas lung cancer screening saves lives, while advocacy and increased awareness will certainly result in more high-risk individuals getting screened, and whereas public support for lung cancer research funding will result in new treatments and better methods of early detection, and whereas Lung Force is a national initiative led by the American Lung Association to defeat the scourge of lung cancer, Now therefore be it resolved by the virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the village of Cornwall and Hudson, and on behalf of the elected village board, on this occasion of the second week of May 2022, we're doing this a little retroactively, I do hereby proclaim the week of May 8th through 14th, 2022, Turquoise Takeover Week, a welcome opportunity to encourage all Cornwall and Hudson, New York residents to educate themselves about lung cancer, its risk factors, and early detection. James A. Galliano, Village Mayor. Ms. Lennon, I'll present this with you. And I know you've got a place to be tonight. The husband is celebrating a birthday party, so.
Just received.
You should have brought cake, so.
I know.
I made a cake.
All right.
Well, thank you very much.
You're
I
welcome. I'll
appreciate
give that to
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Absolutely.
Would you mind if I just said a few quick words?
No.
2 seconds?
I think it's entirely appropriate, because the next thing
May
we're
I
gonna do is
stand at your
public.
podium?
You certainly can.
Not that I'm too pushy or anything.
No.
You're trying to get me out the door per my request, but I just, thank you very much. I wanted to thank the mayor and the board very much for your proclamation and support of this important initiative. But just to give a little context to the Turquoise Takeover, besides the clothes I'm wearing, which probably make the connection. So the American Lung Association's Lung Force, which is a nationwide initiative uniting Americans against lung cancer, created Turquoise Takeover to raise awareness and inspire action to end this disease. While lung cancer remains the leading cause of cancer deaths among both men and women, the 5-year survival rate, which is the percentage of people who are still alive 5 years after being diagnosed, has increased by a dramatic 33% over the last 10 years. Despite this progress, there is more work to be done to provide hope to all those impacted by the disease and to save more lives. Anyone can get lung cancer and no one deserves it. Turquoise Takeover provides the opportunity to raise more awareness about lung cancer, to educate on life-saving screening, and raise funds to fuel research breakthroughs. So I appreciate your support, and thank you very much for the proclamation, and maybe I'll see you again next year.
I hope so. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sue.
You know, Susan, it was, as we were talking about Cornwall High School, Mr. Carnwright, I don't want to throw him under the bus and expose how old he is, but he and his game classmates of the class of 1971 celebrated their 50th anniversary, their reunion at Painters this weekend and all over Cornwall, and it was a year late because of COVID. And so one of the things, when I was looking up some of the things that happened in 1971 to share with his class, one of the things that happened in 1971 was that Congress passed a law that cigarette companies were no longer able to advertise on American television. 1971, 51 years ago. Yeah, so thanks for what you're doing, all right? And our best to the hubs. You got it. Take care. Sir. Okay, got it. Okay, we're just dealing with some audio and visual issues, which thankfully the village clerk, with all the 1,000 hats that she wears, also is our IT professional during village board meetings, because she doesn't have enough on her plate.
I want to grab my water.
Yep, go ahead. Okay, well, let's go ahead and begin with public comment. Anybody that would like to speak now may do so for 3 minutes. You just need to step to the podium, state your name and your address. There will also be another opportunity, a second one, at the end of tonight's meeting to do the same. Would anybody from the public wish to address the board? Seeing no one, I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment, and I'm going to move to the minutes. I'd like to make a motion to accept the April 18th, 2022 business meeting minutes as presented. May I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Next, I'd like to make a motion to accept the May 9th, 2022 special meeting minutes as presented. May I have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The treasurer's report. The open utility balances report for the end of April reads as follows. Village, water, sewer, garbage, and penalties, in a total of $363,656.11. Town water and penalties, $248,204.05. Warrant number 5. I'd like to make a motion to the board to approve the May 2022 warrant number 5 and authorize payment, including prepayments, totaling $481,362.33. May I have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor? The revenue expenditure reports by fund are as follows. General fund revenue, $2,526,031.91, with expenditures of $533,670.40. Water fund revenue, $402,985.46, with expenditures of $385,423.88. Sewer fund revenue, $95,788.12, expenditures of $11,425.16. Total receipts, $3,024,805.49 or 38.5% in anticipated revenues, and $930,519.44 or 11.84% in anticipated expenditures through the end of April. The sewer capital fund budget is at $460,690.81, which includes interest through April 30th. And finally, the amount collected in village taxes and penalties is $2,761,891.25 through April 30th. Moving on to the board department reports. Trustee Carnwright, the building department.
Village of Cornwall and Hudson Building Department report. For April 2022, building permits issued 20, certificates of compliance occupancy issued 11, on-site inspections 28 total. On the 9 to 5 shift, we had 16 inspections. On the 5 to 10 p.m. shift, we had 7. Compliant inspections 5. Violations 2. 0 work orders, stop work orders. Municipal searches were 6. Solar panels 0, and fire inspections were 3. Code enforcement officer Manny Carmona. Thank you.
Manny, anything further to add? All right, then moving on to the fire department. Deputy Mayor Kane.
All right, the April 2022 Fire Department report with respect to events, there were 3 automatic alarms, 7 medical, 3 hazardous conditions, 1 cooking fire, 1 good intent, 1 mutual aid structure fire, 2 meetings, 2 work details, 4 drills. They had their Easter breakfast and New York State training class. There were 5 for a total events of 30 and total volunteer hours about 522 hours. The chief notes that the annual hose and ground ladder testing was completed and approximately 400 feet of the hose failed and will be replaced. And the chief informed us last time, that you don't discard the hose, right, Mike? You reuse it for other purposes. Okay. And engine 411 will go out of service on May 16th for repairs. Captain Trainer successfully completed the New York State EMT exam. Congratulations to him. And the pumper tanker committee expects to have a proposal to the village board either late summer or early board for board consideration. Mike Trainer, Chief, thank you very much. Chief, appreciate it.
Chief, anything to follow up? Assistant Chief, anything to follow? All right. Moving on to the police department. Trustee Brain.
The Cornwall on Hudson Police Department monthly police report, April 1st, 2022 through the 30th of 2022. There were 355 total calls for service. There were no felony crimes. As far as misdemeanors and violations, there was 1 call for fraud, 1 for criminal mischief, and 1 for harassment or aggravated harassment. There was 1 arrest for violation. Under vehicle and traffic information, there were 2 property damage accidents, 5 traffic summonses issued, 9 traffic warnings issued, 3 parking summonses issued, 8 traffic enforcement posts, and 1 speed and radar sign posting. As far as non-criminal activity, there were 7 fire response calls, 2 domestic incidents, 11 alarm response calls, 1 noise complaint, 3 suspicious vehicle calls, 4 suspicious activity calls, 9 animal complaints, and 2 disorderly adult calls. In terms of assisting other departments, there were 7 with the town of Cornwall PD, 7 with EMS, 3 with other agencies, and 9 citizens assists. During the month of April 2022, COHPD Officer DeWidco attended Below 100 Train the Trainer, a training which is geared toward reducing line-of-duty deaths by instilling a culture of safety for law enforcement officers. The training was held in Newburgh, New York. A copy of the training bulletin was appended to our report from the chief for our review. During the month of April 2022, the police department officers participated in the Orange County Stop DWI traffic enforcement grant funding. At the request of Mayor Galliano and the department requested that the board passed a resolution to purchase 1 battery-operated 11-inch radar speed display sign with Street Smart data collection package in the amount of $2,520 from Traffic Systems Incorporated. That price includes freight delivery costs, and a copy of the price quote was attached to the report as well. Respectfully, Chief Stephen E. Dixon. Anything else?
Chief, anything to add?
No, just the resolution.
Yep. All right. One of the reasons why I'd spoken to the chief about the purchase of a second radar sign is that we have one. And the old saying is, if you have one, you have none. If you have 2, you have 1. So in the event that it needed to be repaired or the battery goes out or there's any problems with it, I wanted to have a backup. And then secondly, there's sometimes when we should have 2 signs deployed, maybe on weekends, when school's in session, during periods where, we'd want to have one at either end of the village. To Mr. Joya's point last week, I've spoken to Sergeant Pena about looking into the option somehow, because I know they have to be mounted, Chief, on certain poles, and some of these poles that we mount them on don't have speed signs. But Mr. Joy's point last week, or was it last week or the week before, last month, was the issue of driving through and you see the speed tracking, and for people, especially out of towners, there's no context to, are you within the speed limit or not? So I've asked Johnny and the police department to take a look at that and figure out some type of solution to help us out with that. All right, Bill, do you want to do the resolution to board authorization for the purchase of the piece of equipment?
Surely. Do we have that written out, or shall I just?
I think you gotta wing it, though.
give them the
Yep.
packet? Thank you.
I just put you on the spot, I'm sorry, I had it
No,
right in
that's
front.
Oh, sorry.
So am I just reading exactly what?
You're gonna make a
Okay.
motion? Yep.
So I move that the board authorize the purchase of a battery-operated 11-inch radar speed display sign with Street Smart data collection package in the amount of $2,500 and $2,520.00, including freight delivery from Traffic Systems Incorporated. Can I have a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Sorry about
The
that.
motion carries.
The motion carries. All right. Okay, moving on to Department of Public Works, Trustee Carnwright.
Okay, Village of Cornwall and Hudson Department of Public Works, April 2022. Trash collected for the month, 137.50 tons. Recycling collected, 30.75 tons. Yard waste collected for the month, 100 yards. Repairs and maintenance of village-owned vehicles and equipment continues. Mowing and trimming of village-owned properties has resumed. Sweeping of streets also. Blacktop patching has begun. Boat docks were repaired, installed with the assistance of the Cornwall Yacht Club, and new picnic tables assembled and put in the park. Assisted the water department during repairs of failed valves in the system. Removed carpet, painted and installed new flooring in the records room. Repaired road at Donahue Farm. Repaired and replaced failing plumbing fixtures in police station. Spring bulk cleanup was completed. Removed hazardous trees from Hudson Street Municipal Parking Lot and Maple Road. Replaced the roof on the shed at the police station. Note: in May, we'll begin sidewalk improvements on Idlewild Avenue, Hudson Street, and 2nd Street, as well as drainage repairs and improvements in the Taft Bayview Terrace areas, preparing for paving. Dave Halverson, Superintendent, Public Works. Thanks, Dave.
Dave, anything to add? Yeah, just a little bit, huh? It's always a transitory time, right, in between seasons where things.
Start thinking about snow now.
Yeah. All right, moving ahead. Water Department, Trustee Gaylord.
Village of Cornwall and Hudson Water Department, April 2022. Monthly production, 21,557,000 gallons. Daily average of 718,566,000 gallons. We collected 59 samples in accordance with our approved water quality monitoring plan. We collected 16 samples in response to boil water advisories issued following water leak repairs. Treatment, repaired Black Rock water treatment pressure reducing valves, repaired air actuated valve number 15 on filter number 2, repaired minor chlorine leak on pump at well treatment facility, assist controls engineer with adjustments to Black Rock water treatment plant SCADA system. Transmission and distribution, 107 utility markouts were completed, water main leak repaired at Maple Street, replaced primary transmission main 16-inch shutoff valves at Beeks Road and Ores Mills Road, Quaker Ave at Cedar Lane, Quaker Ave at New York State Route 32. Repair curb valve at 199 Willow Avenue. Leaks repaired by property owners, 4 Nature's Way. Water shutoff at property owner's request. 112 Shelley Court, 14 Academy Avenue, 199 Shore Road, 36 Avenue A, 15 Boulevard. Performed spring fire hydrant flushing. Meters. Red commercial water meters. 14 final water meter readings were completed. 6 residential water meters replaced. 1 miscellaneous customer appointments completed. 3 water line inspections completed. Property maintenance. Cleared vegetation growth from power lines to Black Rock water treatment plant. Began spring cleanup of water properties. Sincerely, Michael Trainer, Water Superintendent.
Mike, there's never a slow month, right? All right, anything to add?
I'll just add that I'll be out of the office all of next week at the New York Rural Water Conference, and then the end of the week I'm on vacation for a couple days.
And while you're gone, it's going to be Dan Nye and Don Bride
Yep.
as the 2 field and plant supervisors that'll be
Correct.
in charge. All right,
Yep.
yep. I'm glad you're going to that. I think in-service training is important, so good. Okay, any questions for, I know we got some water items on the agenda, but any questions from the trustees for Mike? All right, moving on to resolutions. We're going to begin with the Employee Healthcare CPI HR contract. In speaking with Gene Mahoney, our village clerk, we've had a contract with CPI HR for the past 4 years, and it's up for renewal. The cost for that contract has remained in stasis at $4,050 per year. CPI HR provides guidance with respect to the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, otherwise known as the ACA. So I'm going to make a motion accepting the ACA assistance agreement with CPI HR for 2022 at the same fee schedule of $4,050 this year. May I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
I would say as per document.
Should I add per document?
Yeah, it's like 4 pages.
Yeah, because it's,
Sure.
Okay.
this is the whole, let me just see.
So I'm going to amend the resolution
Yeah.
to place the contract in the meeting minutes as per document. May I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yes,
Sir?
I just want to we had discussed this in attorney-client session. There are some things in this contract which are problematic, practically problematic, but it doesn't make any sense, given the cost, to try to renegotiate with the vendor or anything else. Just so everybody's aware, if something happens, we could find ourselves fighting over $3,000 or $4,000. That's kind of the bottom line. So just to make sure everybody understands that. But I have no legal objection.
Okay. Any further discussion from other trustees? All right, all in favor of this passage of this resolution?
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on to seasonal help. Yes, we're in that season. Regarding the water department, upon the recommendation of Superintendent Mike Trainer, our water superintendent, I would like to make a motion to appoint Andrew Cucci, a seasonal laborer in the water department, with a beginning date of June 1st, 2022, and an end date of September 30th, 2022, at an hourly pay rate of $17 per hour. This is Andrew's, how many summers has he spent with us? At least 3?
This will be his third, yes.
This will be his third, and this was the same pay that we paid him last year, our seasonal help, $17 per hour.
Correct, and his actual start date would be June 7th.
Will be June 7th. That'll be amended. All right, may I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right, moving on to seasonal help for the Department of Public Works. After speaking with DPW Superintendent Dave Halverson, I would like to make a motion here to appoint Charles T. Quinn, a seasonal laborer in the Department of Public Works from June 1st, 2022 to September 30th, 2022 at an hourly pay rate of $17 per hour. This is young Mr. Quinn's, how many times with us?
Second year.
This will be his second year. Last year was his first year?
Yes.
Well, he carried himself like a seasoned pro. True tribute to his father and mother. All right, so may I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Is the start date going to be June 1st for him, Dave?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on. Next resolution is going to be to accept Ryan Biggs, Clark Davis Dam Assessment Proposal as a subcontractor from Pintagaro and Deutsch Consulting Engineers. And before I get into the resolution, Counselor, do you want me to have Mike give a quick dump on this, or do you want to state your piece first?
Well, I had an opportunity to speak with Mike before the meeting.
Okay,
and he is
good.
looking to have the board act on this tonight.
Okay.
And he advised me that Pittengarrow and Doach have communicated with him and verbally informed him that they agreed to the terms. They think that this was a good proposal.
Correct.
So having said that, I had an opportunity to look at it while we were sitting here. This is a contract actually between the professionals, Biggs and Davis, and Pittengarrow and Doach. So I think, I'm not sure exactly what the prepared resolution might state, but I think really what the board is looking to do is just essentially acknowledge receipt of the proposal, acknowledge that the proposal is for $16,300 plus some additional expenses, and just authorize Pittengarrow and Doach to proceed to execute the agreement. The point is, the mayor this isn't an agreement with us, so the mayor is not going to be authorized to execute it. This is going to be a subcontract between the village engineers and the vendor. So really, you're just reviewing it, authorizing it, you acknowledge how much it's going to cost, and authorizing Pittengarrow and Doach to contract with the vendor.
Okay, so I can make the motion like this, and then you're gonna add some language on the end of it and regarding some of that additional.
Sure.
Okay,
Let's go for it.
so I'm gonna make a motion, let me try this. I'm gonna make a motion, for the board to accept the proposal from Ryan Biggs, Clark Davis Engineering and Surveying as a subcontractor for the Pintagaro and Deutsch Consulting Engineers in order to perform an investigation up at our Sphagnum Pond Dam masonry. The amount, do I need to put the amount in? The amount of
Sure,
$16,300 plus some
Plus
minor
expenses.
additional expenses. Is fair?
Yeah, plus expenses.
Dot.
I think that pretty much
That
does
covers it?
Yeah.
All right, may I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on. Authorization of the purchase of 620 feet of 6-inch ductile iron water pipe for the Chestnut Street project. In speaking with Water Superintendent Mike Trainer, he's reported that there is a supply chain shortage as it relates to 6-inch ductile iron water pipe, which is necessary and critical in order to complete the Chestnut Street water main replacement project that we are working hand in glove with the town on. Mike's been able to secure 620 feet of this pipe from Expanded Supply Products in Cold Spring, New York, at a cost of $19,440, and is going to request the board authorize this purchase under these exigent circumstances. I'd like to make a motion authorizing the purchase of 620 feet of 6-inch ductile iron water pipe from Expanded Supply Products at a cost not to exceed $20,000. May I have a second?
Second.
Mike, anything to add before I turn it over for further discussion to the board?
I'd just like to point out that if we were to order this pipe today, we would not see it until March of next year. And the reason why we're going ahead and purchasing the pipe up front, rather than having the contractor, when that person is selected, purchase it as normally, is because the town has a timeline crunch to get this project done by the end of September. So it's in everybody's best interest to purchase this. And I reached out to probably 8 or 9 different vendors, and none of them had any that they could supply us with. And even Expanded Products, this delivery won't be here until the first week of June.
Further discussion from members of the board?
Lucky we got it.
Yep, absolutely. Well done, Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Moving on now to other business. All right, Bill, I'm going to throw you under the bus again here. Donahue Farm property update. I know you've got some news to share, and I'm not going to steal your thunders.
All right. I don't have any groundbreaking news to share unless I'm forgetting something important, but this past weekend, the committee hosted an open house at the property in which they invited the public to attend in order to get some tours of the exteriors, to look at the facilities that are there, to understand what the committee's mission is and what they're trying to do, and to complete the community survey that the committee has put together. So I did a very rough count. About 40 people turned out over the course of 4 hours, and it was a very big success. I think there were a lot of people asking really reasonable questions and good questions, and some people showed up with particular concerns and, talked with members of the committee or with myself, and either had those concerns allayed or got more information on those particular topics. So it was really successful and a really good time. I don't think I have anything else to add about Donahue Farm specifically.
Next meeting of the
Yeah, the
committee?
next meeting is the 4th Tuesday of the month, so I'm sorry, I forget the date of that. I think maybe it's May 26th-ish or something, 24th, 26th. But it's in this room, 6:30 on that last day.
24th.
The 24th
24th,
is the next to the last Tuesday in May.
That'll be the one.
Okay.
And that's it.
Yeah, I'll,
Oh, I'm sorry, I do have something else. And Scenic Hudson has, they're engaged in doing their draft of a memo of understanding between them and the village as to some of the maintenance and annual funding considerations around such things as plowing the trail back to the tree line, maintaining the trailhead facility, maintaining the road, plowing, and even supplying gravel for it. So none of it is set yet. They haven't sent us their draft. They've sent us the concepts, and we looking forward to getting that from them. So it should be soon.
well, that just tripped my memory. So first of all, I'd like to piggyback onto what Bill said. It was inspiring to see. The committee did a great job, and a lot of board members as well as town council members stopped down there. It was just nice to see everybody. This morning at the department head meeting, I got into a debate with the DPW superintendent, and I've learned, or I should have learned, that I'm usually going to lose those debates when it comes down to matters of what we can and cannot do. Bill, I thought this would be a good time, maybe if you could address this, and if not, point us in the right direction. But David asked about the possibility of the village paving the ingress road and egress road, because there's only one, they're the same, to the parking lot and the parking lot. And I thought that I had heard during one of my conversations with Scenic Hudson that a non-permeable substance could not be put down there, that there was something involving the conservation easement that did not allow that. I could be wrong, but Dave was asking about that because he believes that if we're charged with maintaining it, our vehicles are gonna get beat to you-know-what by having to go over that road that no matter how many times you regrade it, it's still gonna pothole out, and it's just beating up our trucks and our plows. Were you the one that told me that? Did somebody say that you couldn't put a non-permeable substance down?
My understanding is that that's the case. I'd have to
That
check
is.
again.
Because I went through I went through the easements and all of it, and you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's ways to do smoother top permeable substances, but they're super expensive. So if
Because
you look at the DIA,
you're talking about doing pavers, right?
yeah, the DIA parking lot is a good example. They have, just to use a rough estimate, squillions of dollars that they are able to use for that, but they put down a parking area that is concrete block. What's it called? It's got a specific name that I can never remember, but it's got holes in it.
Yeah,
It's
semi-permeable.
perforated concrete blocks that go down, and you can drive on it, and it's smooth and it stays flat, and you can plow it and all that
You
stuff.
can plow it.
Yeah, but grass will grow through it and stuff like that. But you park on it, and it's great, but it's expensive. So to do a whole road and a parking area of it.
But
would
you have
be
to mow over
prohibitive.
that as well then, right? The grass comes up
Well,
through
you
it?
can, but I mean, you could just leave it as a roadway that people can drive on as long as
Yeah.
no trees grow up. But again, so
Dave, I'm 1 for 750. Uh-oh, there's a retort.
Does that include the entrance into the farm property itself, the home that's on the property? Because my second suggestion to the mayor would be that we paved into the gate, the loop around the driveway, which we have to maintain in winter. And then come winter time, from the gate back to the parking lot is gonna be a seasonal road, open at your own risk.
I'm gonna direct you to the the May 24th meeting of the Donahue Farm Committee for all future planning related to egress and.
Is Scenic Hudson gonna be there on the 24th?
They've offered to come again. They have crew chiefs that we've dealt with, and they also have the person who manages the conservation easements, Sarah Turner. So she offered to come to any meeting we want her to. So maybe it's worth having this, kind of hashing this out, either at one of those meetings or offline to get to some understanding that can be
Yeah,
brought.
I wasn't sure with all the covenants, I mean, I know there's certain restrictions we can't have. I'm not positive and sold on, we can't maintain a roadway. I understand the trailhead and all that stuff. But we also have to maintain our equipment and our property. And as this road gets rutted up, the people aren't driving on the road anymore, they're riding up on the grass and around, and it's just making it wider and more holes and worse. So it just spirals. I think the easiest thing to do would be to fix that road one time.
Yeah.
Have a good parking area that drains. If you went down there today, you could have swam into one end of the parking lot.
That's a good argument. The other good argument was, I was stunned to hear the proposed price point for this, because with the cost of petroleum products, Dave, you're still quoting $20,000 for the entire project?
We can do it in-house for approximately 25,000 with our
Far
equipment.
below what I would have expected asphalt to be at right now.
That's basing on what I got a quote on this past week for other work that we're doing.
Gotcha. So the questions are, can we do it on the entire property? Number two, if we can't do it on the ingress point to the parking area, can we do it on other pieces that the village is required to maintain? Mary Donahue's turnaround there, as well as that
To the gate.
little, like how far in? Now, we're gonna run afoul of the committee, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that are not gonna want a blade of grass touched. So it's gonna be, again, finding out what that best path forward is, and maybe we loop in Scenic Hudson in the committee as soon as possible and make this a priority for the May 24th meeting.
Well, this is why I came forward now, because if we wanna do it, we wanna get it done before winter, before we're going through what we went through.
With the roof?
Well, not only with doing the maintenance down there in the winter, when you get snow.
Got it. Okay.
There's nothing worse than plowing snow when it's been warm out and the ground's not frozen.
Yep.
Especially on dirt.
Gotcha. Fair. Okay. Anybody else? Yep.
Thank you, Superintendent Halverson, for keeping the Donahue Farm conversation going, because I did want to say that refreshments and other things that were purchased for the Donahue Farm Open House were courtesy of the Special Events Committee. I'd like to thank Mr. Trainer and Mr. Cordisco run that committee. They stepped up when there was concern about where to get a few dollars for some of those items. And Phyllis Herring, I think, deserves particular praise. She put together the open house, did a great job.
Yep, truly did. All right, moving on. The donations and our draft policy on this, and I don't know if Joe has anything to add on this. I was up at the New York Conference of Mayors annual conference up in Bolton Landing a couple of weeks ago and had conversations with a number of members of NICOM in regard to getting a copy of several different donation policies that other villages have, and they're compiling some to send back to me. So this is a placeholder for me unless Joe or any other member of the board has something on it, but I'd like to look and see how some of the other villages are handling donation policies. We have a rough working draft, but you see, we're not going to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah,
Anybody have anything to add?
No, I'd entertain it.
Okay. All right. Moving on to the 2022 fee schedule and additional updates. I know recently there have been discussion members amongst the board members with Code Enforcement Officer Carmona, as well as with the attorney for the village regarding proposed fee schedule updates for the building department. Manny, where do we stand on discussions right now with the attorney for the village in regard to any immediate changes that the board needs to address and look at changing going forward?
On the last meeting, I submitted a proposal that we still, all the three of us are still looking at. I guess we gotta have another meeting to decide if we wanna go forward with my proposal, if we wanna change any of the numbers on there. But I still think we need to do a little more work before we present it to you.
So, Joe, myself, and Manny met at least 2 weeks ago, and we went through the fee schedule. And we asked Manny to, he updated it, and we asked Manny to revise it to indicate what the current fees were, so we can do the comparison. But we had gone through a lot of it. Some of it we agreed with Manny. Some of it I disagreed with Manny,
Okay.
respectfully.
Sure.
So at this point, I know Manny had emailed Joe and I the revised schedule of fees. So we do have to meet one more time, and then we can come back to you, to the rest of the board, and we'll give you our suggestion. I mean, I know it's not really Joe's purview, it's fees, so I'll come back and I'll advise the board.
Okay, we plan on doing that before the June business meeting. In fact, a good time to talk about it with the board would be the June work session, and then we could, if we're all in concert, we could ratify that at the business meeting. Is that okay?
I can make myself available.
Okay.
You can, excellent. Meeting, June
Okay, great,
13th.
just wanna make sure I was around. Okay, yeah.
And just so the board is aware, I think we made some good progress. Manny had proposed some changes to the village code, and we went through them with him. We had a lot of consensus. And, you know, there's still more to do on that, but I think it was kind of a watershed meeting. We all agreed as to where certain code changes should be placed and how to go about it. So that was my main concern in the beginning. But the three of us agreed, we don't think there's going to be any issue with that. And now we have to tweak some of the language that Manny had proposed and maybe craft some new language from some other towns or villages.
What Joe's referring to is the temporary storage. So we had a lengthy, our meeting consisted of 3 topics: the fee schedule, the temporary storage, which I know we're jumping ahead, but since Joe already mentioned it, and the employment contract. In any case, yes, with respect to the temporary storage, we had very good conversation, went in depth. Joe had provided us with some other municipalities, their codes. I reviewed those. We're looking at an additional one, potentially Orangetown. I actually looked for that, and I didn't necessarily find that one. But Manny brought up some very good points. We've narrowed a few things down. In fact, I know, let's see, one of the big things we did determine is that we're going to put it as part of, envelope it into the building code, not the zoning code. So it's more appropriate in the building code.
Correct.
Under accessory structure, correct?
Yes, sir.
But identifying it as a
Temporary storage unit.
Yes, yeah. So, and then we went into the time frame of the 6 months, when you need to get the permit, the size of it, the considerations of where the placement of the temporary storage would be, giving the code enforcement officer some discretion with respect to that. Because you have to think of small houses that are like, say, on Hudson Street, like the Yale House across the street, has no side yard or barely any front yard. So if they need to, because I know the house was just sold, so if someone was moving in, could they put a temporary storage facility in the parking space right in front? So there's going to be some discretion. There's lots of moving parts of this. We're not the first ones who are doing it, but we're getting there. So in our next meeting, hopefully we'll have something to come back to you with. I'll try to come back on the same meeting, the business meeting in June, to give you an update on that, and then maybe if we can what I anticipate is if we finalize maybe by the July timeframe.
Okay. Keep in mind, July and August, we will have compressed meetings, so the work session and the business meeting will be combined. There will only be one meeting in those 2 months, as is our custom here in the village. Here's my question for you. When does the clock start ticking? So now that we're making residents aware that it is 179 days, that is by New York State law or regulation, when does the clock tick? Is there any requirement in there for residents to notify you when that's going to be delivered? Or do they just have to keep it on receipt and then you stop by and knock on a door with a friendly question and they say, okay, it's only been here a month? How does that work?
That is something we still have on the table. There's a couple of options we could do. We could require a permit, or as you mentioned, they could put it on the property. I see it, I'll come by and ask for the information like we did with the current one that we're dealing with right now. I have a copy of the documents when it was delivered to the property, and that's the day that the clock started ticking, the delivery day.
Delivery day.
And the different municipalities that Joe's looked at and I've looked at, they vary. I mean, some of them will have 7 days, 30 days where you don't necessarily need a permit, but then after the 30th day, you do have to get a permit. And most of the municipalities are up to 179 days, no more than 6 months. Some of them you just make the application, you let the code enforcement officer, the building department know that you're actually putting it there, okay? And then after your initial 30 days, then you come in, if it's gotta be extended, now you have to get a permit, you pay the fee. Cause you have to consider, I mean, sometimes people come in, I'm not gonna say we're in a transient community, but we have people from West Point who live here temporarily, and sometimes they're gonna use those pods. So, do you necessarily want to have someone have to pay a permit if they're only having the pod for a week or 2 weeks or something like that? So that's gonna be all worked out. There's just, we're kind of the way I'm looking at it, we're looking at the best parts of some of the other municipalities there.
Yeah, we're just trying to frame the issues, and then the board will decide whether you get a permit up front. I think the three of us acknowledge that once we adopt this law and it says essentially you need a permit for certain types of structures or pods or other containers, the likelihood is that people won't know and they're not going to come and get a permit, when they call the company to get this delivered. So most likely the practicality of it is that these things are going to come because Manny drives around and he sees that one's there, or your neighbor drops a dime on you, that's essentially how this is going to get enforced. Yeah. And then, then the question would be, do you want, if you're going to have one for less than 30 days, do you want to have the property owner get a permit up front? So there are a lot of options. And like Jim said, the municipalities do it in all different kinds of ways.
Yep. Okay, I appreciate all three of you and your work on that. Manny's got his hands full, and since we're back on the topic of code enforcement, some of the issues and some of these are residents that will complain to you, or residents that will call here and complain to me, and then I call you and complain to you. But some of the things are bringing people into compliance with industrial grade dumpsters. If you have one, it has to be at the back of your property. It cannot be put out on the sidewalk or in the front of your driveway, and it has to be in an enclosure. And there's a number of places here where, when Manny started enforcing that, we're giving people a reasonable amount of time to get it resolved, but that is on our radar. Trash cans being picked up from your house and recyclables, and I'm guilty as anyone, as I put my garbage can out a little earlier than 5 o'clock the night before, but I guess the code says 5 o'clock they can be put out, and then after they're picked up, a reasonable amount of time afterwards. We understand that people are working, but we've had some residents complain about neighbors that leave their garbage or their recyclable containers out there for a week. That's unacceptable. So Manny's been working on that piece. And then lastly, I want to thank the code enforcement officer. The board has been addressing the short-term rental law of recent. I think one of the things that I did a poor job on in messaging once the law was passed was not making sure that people understood, and we put this out in a blast, that you have to register to be part of an Airbnb. And I asked Manny to give me a list of 5, 6 things that I thought were important for residents to know, which I included in a message, which I put out to social media, and all the things that we post on the village website. I also share on Living in Cornwall, Living in Cornwall 2, son of Living in Cornwall, stepson of Living in Cornwall, every Living in Cornwall there is, the community bulletin board. I make sure it gets out to the bawdy site and the clean site and all the in between. The most important thing is that people register, because it requires an inspection. And as Manny pointed out, it's not just the Airbnb place, or I'm sorry, space that you're looking to rent out that has to be inspected. You open your whole house up to an inspection. So that's important to know. Now, when we started this campaign, I call it the campaign of informing the public about our short-term rental law that's been on the books since 2019 or 20? No, 2021. 21. Since we started this campaign, I think that we did some exploratory work on some social media sites and saw that there were like 50 or 60 places in the village that were on the Airbnb or VRBO, whatever you call those different lists. And we only had 2 applications in for people that wanted to, rent out a portion of their home. What are we up to now, Mr. Code
We're
Enforcement
still
Officer?
the same, still only 2, but we are working on it. I'm sure we'll get to them all.
So the communication blitz worked perfectly as designed. People pretty much scrolled right past it. I should have learned my lesson. The longer the message you sent out, the less inclined people are to read the whole thing. So, all right, I'll follow up on that, Manny. And if you can think of anything that we can do to better get the word out, I understand being in law enforcement for many years, ignorance of the law is no excuse, but when we're creating regulations like this and people don't know, and it's a relatively new thing, I got to figure out a way to get the message out. If you can think anything, let us know.
I think, and I know we mentioned this before at last meeting, I just think it's once you have Megan, take a look, and we determine who we think is doing this, I just think a general letter, a friendly reminder to the residents of those 40 or 50 places saying, hey, by the way, this law is passed on such and such a date, you need to come in and register.
So it's not targeting, what you're suggesting is going to some of these online sites, putting Cornwall and Hudson 12520 in, seeing what pops up, figuring out where the address is. We all should recognize there's only, 400 homes around here. Figure out what the homes are and then send out a letter. As long as we're doing it that way, I don't think it.
Wonder how the town is doing.
That's a good point.
Doing any better?
Can you do me a
I will
favor?
check.
Can you check with
Well, Gary, I'll call Gary and find out how he's doing it
Yeah,
over
just
there.
find out what the status is on their end.
Sure.
Counselor?
What is before us?
So, okay.
I would recommend a strongly worded letter.
I strongly worded.
A friendly, strong letter.
I mean, you could send a general notice to every household and say, if you're
could.
considering renting your house
Bill,
for more than
that
7
might-
days,
Now,
please know that you have to register.
now that would be a hell of a lot easier. No one could ever complain we're playing favorites. What would it cost, Gene?
pop it in a bill?
Gene, how's it under the bus with me? It's fine.
Gene likes
Can't we-
50 rather than 1,000.
can't we put it in a bill?
going out.
Our only bill is postcard.
Oh.
So I don't know how we would
Oh,
include
okay, I
it
got
with
you.
another bill.
Okay, I see
Yeah,
what you're
the
saying.
postcard, it's easy to discard. Look, we're talking
Could
about
we do
40
it
or
on a
50.
postcard?
Yeah, I think we can do it on a postcard, no?
Oh, sure.
Not the whole, not all the requirements, but you say, the basic thing is, if you're considering renting a portion of your home for more than 7 days,
People don't
Please
like the
contact Village
postcard.
Hall.
They tend to discard them thinking that they're trash.
I think when you get a letter.
When you get an envelope, they
when-
tend.
Right, and it's signed by the code enforcement officer.
sure.
It has a little bit more weight than the postcard that I'm gonna discard immediately as I pick it out of the mail.
Is that something that the board should consider? I mean, it would be bulk rate postage. There's gonna be some, no, it wouldn't be bulk rate? Why would it not be bulk rate?
It's first class mail, if you're doing
If
a
it's in
regular
an
letter.
envelope, yeah.
Mike?
No, he's saying.
We do this.
You do a folder? No, they
We
throw it
do,
out.
we do this each year with the annual water quality report. We send it out to every resident in the town and in the village. And I think it costs us like $3,000, $2,000 to $3,000 for the
That's
mailing.
full color, and that's both
Ex-
sides, trifold.
Yes, and that's just the mailing. So I mean, you're probably talking, if you wanted to do, something that's not just your Airbnb regulations, but anything else that you may have, you can put out a full flyer. You're probably talking in the neighborhood of $3,000 to $5,000 by the time you print it and do everything.
40 or 50 letters that we're talking about might be just a little bit less expensive.
All right, let me give that some thought.
Well, I mean, when we talked about this,
Yeah.
we talked about having the code enforcement officer have the ability to cross-reference and find out if people were compliant, and that's,
You can, there's no,
and it's not, that could be a lot of work for Manny, but we have help down there, and I'm thinking, like you say, those 50 people or whatever, it may be a lot easier than what you think if Bill found them that fast.
Okay,
and then the word goes out. Once
Yeah.
someone.
Yes.
A couple of people. have
Manny,
let
do me a
know
favor.
who's doing it, too.
Will you get with me and let's, all right, and let me know maybe what the town did, if the town's got better numbers than we have. I mean, two is not where we need to be.
It's better than zero.
It's better than zero. Okay, moving along to Donnie Memorial Park Pavilion update. This is something that we've been very excited about, but as with everything, when you're dealing with New York State, it takes a while to wind its way through the process. Just think composting toilets. The village received a Dormitory Authority of the State of New York, a DASNY grant in the amount of $50,000 in order to build a pavilion at Donahue Memorial Park. And the position that we selected is tucked in as you come down Dock Hill Road. It's right to the right-hand side. Doesn't obstruct any views. It's in a perfect spot where it's not being used for anything else. It can be built with the contours of the land. And most importantly, it would provide people that are going down to Donahue Memorial Park an opportunity to have events or gatherings, functions with a covering. The shelter or the gazebo, the shelter down there, is not really designed for that, large enough to do that as this would be. So we have $50,000 coming. Draft bid documents have been prepared. They're currently under review by the attorney for the village, Mr. McKay. And I'd like the review to be completed and the documents to be in front of the board for acceptance by the June 20th business meeting, sir?
So Gene, did you send that to me yet? Okay.
Okay, all right. So work session the 13th, we want to be able to accept this on the 20th at the business meeting. All right, we tackled the temporary storage containers on private property. Moving on to Kovac and Nuvac, BLS and ALS service. The village and the town are continuing right now on a month-to-month. Nothing has changed. Kovac continues to be our basic life support service responders. New Windsor EMS, or New Windsor Volunteer Ambulance Corps, continues to serve as our ALS, or Advanced Life Support service providers. The town and the village will be having another meeting shortly together, a joint session. I'm not sure when that'll be. I'm going to guess sometime in the next couple weeks to discuss things further. But that is where we are right now. Nothing has changed as of this moment. Okay, next, Storm King Engine Company number 2, the parking lot and snow, salt, debris mitigation. So we are still, unless somebody else, and I know you guys have relationships with Mr. DeFriest, all of you, we still have not heard back yet from Dave. He's the owner of 16 Clark Avenue. He is having soil testing and some remediation options put forth or put together in order to bring back to the village. Over the years, as we've had fewer and fewer places that we can push our snow to, and it's not the snow that kills things, it's the things that we have to use to treat the street so we can drive safely on them. But a lot of that stuff runs off down on the back side of the parking lot of SKE2's parking lot there, and there is some serious environmental damage to the trees he has there. Dave is a huge proponent of the firehouse. In fact, he loves it. Doesn't want to hurt the village in any way possible, but the trees that are there provide some screening from lights and from noise and just some privacy screening. And so rather than just stupidly slap some trees down, buy some trees and slap them there and have the same thing continue to happen, we're going to look to find out what is actually going on in the soil and then look at some other remediation options. And Dave, I see you ready to add something. No? Michael? No? All right, so we haven't heard anything back from Mr. DeFriest? All right.
I'll reach out.
Would you?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, good. Just to find out what the status is, because while the weather's nice, I'd like to start thinking about what we're gonna do before we get to snow season. All right, moving on to FYI. I'd like to report the following upcoming events. Now, we moved up the bandstand concert series. The first one is gonna be tomorrow night. Method of the Madness was trying to extend the fund because people really enjoy them. And last year they got especially when we were dealing with the pandemic, people got had a lot of appreciation for the concert series that Eddie Hurley does an amazing job setting up. The only problem with starting it on Tuesday tomorrow is we have not had time yet. The Garden Club has been amazing, blowing my phone up with looking for projects. And one of the things they do is typically around the bandstand for us. They haven't gotten the date set. I think it's in one of the upcoming weekends. So that will not be done. I know Dave's guys cleaned up down there. I know Eugene's guys, Eugene Randazzo, who literally should be a village employee as much as he gives to the village, had his folks do some planning of some ornamentals and some annuals on the side of the parking lot right there by, what's the name of that road, Dave? Behind the bandstand? The extension? That's not the Maple, that's not Maple Avenue Extension? Okay, all right. So that's going on. So we also are prepping the flower beds at the bottom of Duncan Avenue. Those will be done shortly. Eugene's guys do the plantings there. Dave's guys cleaned them up. I asked them to redo the asphalt and concrete barriers around those things because they had fallen into disrepair, people driving over them, snowplows hitting them. They repaired those, repainted them. The flowers will all be installed. It will not happen by tomorrow, but will happen shortly. And you may have noticed that the flagpole was taken down. We had some problems with the age and the decay and disrepair of the flagpole there. We have purchased a new flagpole. It was sent, we were supposed to have it in place a couple of weeks ago, and it arrived, and it had a dent in it. So we're now back in the supply chain crisis in waiting to get our 25-foot flagpole that will be right next to where the old one was. Okay, that's that. So the bandstand concert schedule, the first one is this Tuesday, tomorrow, May 17th. There'll be 20 of them, and they run through the month of September. There'll be slight adjustments in the time beginning because of obviously daylight savings time, but it'll run through September 27th. Movie night at Donahue Memorial Park is this Saturday, and I saw the picture that Dominic posted. So apparently we took a test drive of the Lamborghini of a movie screen that we have now. Everything withstood the elements, everything, nothing blew away, Mike. There were no holes or anything in or any problems?
Everything went together all right. We kind of questioned ourselves initially, and then we read the instructions.
Well, you are men.
Yep. So we were able to put it up and take it down in less than 3 hours.
So setup and takedown, and it was a total of 3 hours?
Yep.
Can you imagine how he could have done if you read the directions first?
I know, right?
It would have been 2 hours.
So we think it's a good thing, and if you looked at some of those pictures that Dominic posted, it kind of dwarfs the the gazebo that's there.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a good thing.
So we're excited. Now, we're doing it in the same location we've always done it, right?
Correct.
Okay, you just tested it up by the gazebo.
We tested it at the gazebo because the other end was being used by the ballet.
Understood. And the ballet company did their due diligence and took the stage down today, and Dave told me on his way up here this morning that they were already packing it out. So I guess they had 3 performances down there, and I haven't heard anything, but I'm assuming everything went off without a hitch. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so Mike, Saturday, the wonderful Joyas.
Yes.
In fact, I think Mr. Joy is playing at Painters this week, and then he and his wife are gonna do the.
They're doing a Beatles tribute concert, if you will, from 6 to 7:30 on Saturday, followed by the classic movie Yesterday.
Well, I understand that Mr. Joya fancies himself to be Paul McCartney. I hope that Mrs. Joya is not going to be Yoko Ono. Will not be the screeching.
got it mixed up.
She's got a much nicer voice. Okay, good. Mike, so that starts what time on Saturday?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock are the Joyas. Movie starts once.
7:30, 8:15, that area, dusk.
Excellent. Awesome. Okay, moving on. Continuing on with, for your information, the Storm King Engine Company number 2 inspection dinner is going to be held May 28th. That's a Saturday, correct? From 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., and that will be down at Donahue Memorial Park like it was last year, because you guys realized what a better venue that was than doing it at the firehouse, huh? Okay. Memorial Day holiday is Monday, May 30th. Village offices will be closed. The American Legion put notice out that the parade begins, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, 10 a.m.?
Yes.
10 a.m. for the Memorial Day parade. It's right underneath there. There you go. And Riverfest, Mr. Wynn Gold, who's the chairman of the Riverfest, is excited. Last year we had to stand down. The year before we had to stand down due to COVID. And this will be their first time in 3 years being back on track June 5th.
No, Riverfest is always on a Saturday, correct?
They moved it
Sunday.
to Sunday because
they
of
did.
the illumination.
Newburgh Illuminated bumped us out, and they were the 300-pound gorilla because they have I don't know how many thousands of people. I mean, Riverfest gets a lot too.
Did Wynn Gold reach out to you, Dave, about using the DPW truck with the hydraulic gate on it?
He approached myself and Tom from the town a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And we agreed to give them a hand. Not quite sure what's going, he said PRG couldn't do it for him.
So he had said that you guys are gonna supply the trucks and the driver, and he asked if we could get some like 4 high school or college kids to, I guess, the stage must come in blocks or something?
Some muscle, yeah.
Yeah. So is that the understanding you have from him?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're all set there. Okay.
And I'm noticing that there's something I missed is not on here, but Gene, correct me if I'm wrong, registration for summer playground is next weekend. This is critical. Now, we're gonna have another ad running in the Cornwall Local this week, a big splashy ad, and I think that the Local is gonna do an article about summer playground and about the town recreation departments, whatever they call it, it's not summer playground. Registration, I believe, is Friday and Sunday, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So it's Friday the 20th, May 20th, Sunday the 22nd. On Friday, it's in the evening from like 6 to 8, and then Sunday it's in the afternoon. I want to say like 12 to 2. Just look in the paper. Friday is only for village residents. Sunday is for all others. So we're really looking forward to it this year. We're excited. Okay, that is that. We'll go to board comments. Trustee Brain.
I don't know that I have any comments beyond those I made about Donahue Farm. So maybe I'll shout out an alibi after the others go.
Okay, absolutely. Trustee Carnwright.
Now, just, the Donahue Farm was great.
Yep.
Good to see a lot of people down there. It was very nice.
Awesome. Trustee Gaylord.
No, Dave just answered mine about the Riverfest.
Excellent. Deputy Mayor Kane.
Just a few things first. Dave, thanks for you and the crew for the bulk pickup. That was great. thank the village residents for participating in the river sweep. Unfortunately, I was
right.
not around for that.
For the from the CCAC.
Yeah, and with the Donahue Farm Committee, that was excellent. Learned a lot from Deke. I think it was an excellent open house, an opportunity for everyone to take a look. In regards to Memorial Day weekend, the American Legion on Saturday morning, May 28th, from 7 to 11, they're having a donut social, which they had last year instead of the breakfast, which hopefully we'll get back to next year. Donuts and coffee. It'll be at the entrance of Riverlight Park when you go into the baseball field there, and they'll be seeking donations for poppies. And the last thing with respect to the DeFreeze property, Rick, just so you know, we haven't ignored your suggestion about the London plane trees, right? So that's gonna be the suggestion. Yes, yeah. No, because I totally remember it because I think it's a great idea. You knew it right away, so that's my suggestion going to be to Dave. So we thank you for that.
Now, those are a hybrid of the American sycamore and the Asian plane tree, which was developed, in fact, as Rick pointed out, for London. I happened to notice that when I was looking them up the other day. That's why they look like sycamores, because they're actually a hybrid of a sycamore and another plane.
All right.
Yeah. All right, I just got two things. One is to, again, piggyback off of Deputy Mayor Kane. The Cornwall Conservation Advisory Council, Carla Castillo does an amazing job. I listened to the town board meeting the other night, and she briefed the efforts. And while she was hosting some 75 people down at the riverfront, her husband, Ted Warren, was at the Muser Road piece of the Hudson Island Nature Museum. We have the one on the boulevard, the one in the town has a big property out there, and they planted 300 trees. I get excited every year when I put one new tree on my property. They did 300 trees. They had the holes pre-dug. The volunteers showed up, and they filled the holes and put the trees in. So just a wonderful, wonderful effort. So the two of them tag teaming that day, truly impressive with what got accomplished. Lastly, it's a little different note. So my day job is, working as a television law enforcement analyst. And obviously this week we had just an utterly difficult to comprehend situation that happened in Buffalo. And I only say this because part of my job is responding on TV for in the wake of events like this, which unfortunately are far too often. I was really taken by the Buffalo mayor, Mr. Brown, and I felt like it really felt a sense of kinship with him in the sense of, what do you do and what do you say in the wake of something horrific like that, where 10 of your residents, your constituents, your family, your friends are killed in such a senseless fashion. So just, in the job that we have here, which is just an awesome responsibility, we've been blessed that we've had some tragedies in Cornwall, there's no doubt, but to deal with something on that level and that scale and to handle it with such poise and magnanimity and grace was awe-inspiring. So keep in your prayers and your thoughts of the people in Buffalo this week and beyond. And that's all I have on our end for board comments. I will move this now to public comment. If you wish to speak, please step up to the microphone, state your name and your address, and you may address the board. Sir?
Rick Joya, 167 Hudson. Okay, just a few things based on, actually tying in from the work session last week, there was a proposal from Dave about needing a vehicle. And I remember back in the olden times when I was a trustee, you wanted to purchase a dump truck and you were able to do a municipal lease, which was actually very favorable because we ended up buying it for very reduced after paying the lease off. Right? I'm just curious if something like that might apply for the vehicle that you were proposing.
We've been doing that in the DPW since then.
Okay. because that was amazing. I mean, you brought it and it was great. So thank you. And
Not to interrupt you, is that our default now? Because I know that we've discussed this on several, is that our default to do that first and foremost?
Most times, depending on the situation where we had to purchase some other stuff, like our garbage truck, we rolled into a bond with some other
Right,
stuff.
that was more though.
Mhm.
Yeah. Done it with police vehicles too.
Yep.
thank you. And then I just was curious, maybe it's a question for Gene. What is the market for recycling? I mean, we all put our recycling out. I mean, what is the equation these days?
Honestly, I don't know the answer. Dave is actually your better.
Paying now.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, I'm just curious. I mean, we're all like doing our diligent recycling and I'm just, is it a loss? Is it break even?
When we first started our recycling program many years ago, we were profiting from it. That has gone by the wayside because of the amount of recycling that's available and everybody doing it.
Yeah.
The demand has gone down. However, we locked in with the company that used to be in the old Pepsi plant in Newburgh, who since built a new place across the river. We've been dealing with them since they started up. We're paying about half of what everybody else pays going to the county to dispose of their recycling.
So it's
So, and just as an example, garbage, you're paying 113, or I don't know if it went up. It's either 113 or $121 per ton to get rid of. And the recycling, we're paying about $37 a ton.
Oh, okay.
So we're paying to get rid of.
We're now paying to get rid of recycling.
We're paying to get rid of recycling?
Yes.
But it's much less. It's a much lower tipping fee though than.
Yeah, no, I get it, but I mean, I thought that there was some kind of recompense, no? Huh?
At least we're getting real recycling, especially on
Yeah.
paper, right?
Yeah, we
So
used to.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Who does the sorry for hijacking your time.
No, it's good.
Who does the sorting, by the way? Once we went to single stream, who does the sorting?
The company across the river, they built a modern facility over there that actually does the sorting in-house.
So you drop it off by weight and then we pay them
They
per
sort.
pound?
Yep.
Okay?
All right.
Lesson learned.
Couple of quick other things. Just the Donahue farm, and I completely lapsed. I was mowing my lawn and I completely lapsed on going out to visit. And afterwards I felt terrible. So I'll go to the next one. But
You can go down there anytime.
yeah, and I do,
own it.
and I do, yes. But regarding the covenants and this discussion about paving, I just, to me, that's a real red flag, and it goes right to one of the fundamental issues for me with that property, which is cars. And we're talking about this piece of land that's kind of pristine, and now we're talking about this overlay of public use, and that equals cars. And then that equals macadam and all these other things. And we just have to be so careful. I mean, there are rural roads in Maine that are dirt or gravel, and they're plowed in the winter. So somehow it happens in other places. And I just don't want to see the suburbanization of that property. And also, I think it's a dangerous precedent for building on that. Well, if we did that, now we can do this. And it's like, maybe I'll be the first one to quote Bob Marley at a village board meeting, but once you get what you want, do you want more? Okay, I'm just going to say that. We got the property, fantastic. Oh, well, okay, so just saying. It's like human nature to want to do this and kind of keep going, but at some point you just got to appreciate what you have. Okay, and we have to just be very careful about thinking about what it is, what a gift that is to us. And we can't just steamroll over it. That's what I'm going to say. And last is, I think what precipitated the temporary storage containers was the pod on Academy that was there, I think, over 2 years. Yep. So, I know we're now, it's on the radar, and we're hopefully going to regulate something that's going to be a hell of a lot better than that. But, I mean, we all stared at that eyesore for a very long time, and it was right on Homeland or whatever. It was like front and center in everybody's face for a very long time. And I think I'm done. Sorry. Thanks. Thank you all.
And Rick, thank you, because you brought that to my attention, and I had driven, it had become so ubiquitous, I just thought it was part of the property after a while. And I'll never forget, I stopped by there to talk to the property owner who's since moved, and very fair person, and explained it. And as I walked around to get back into my car, some of the neighborhood folks had tacked on a big sign that said, "Happy 1-year anniversary to this pod." So you knew at that point in time, the neighborhood was, they'd had enough. Yeah. All right, anybody else? Mr. Coyne.
Brendan Coyne, 13 Polo Court. Just a couple of things, add to the river sweep notes. One of the volunteer groups was Storm King School, which I'm always happy to see them connect with the village as much as they can. It was a cold day, and we were lucky to have as many volunteers as we did. In regard to the farm open house, the job Phyllis did was great. The seeds for plants for pollination, pollinators was great. Honey sticks and whatnot. She did a good job, Phyllis. The school district, the budget vote is tomorrow, May 17th. The budget and the board election. And finally, for the 4th of July, putting on my hat as the fundraising chair, we'd like to make a request to the village, as we do annually. We haven't done it the last 2 years because we haven't had a full celebration, for a donation. Usually it's in the vicinity of $500 to $1,000. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you for that. All right, anybody else? Rick, here's your chance. No, all right. All right, without further ado, I'd like to make a motion to conclude the May 16th meeting of the village board. May I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion or alibis? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Thank you, everybody. Keep in mind, the mics are still hot, so whatever you say can be picked up.
All right, I just texted Dave.
Great.
I know you gotta go shut this off. Do we have?
Joe, don't forget my secret order now.
Will they blow?
Yeah, I talked to her.
All right.
Yeah. What's that? Maybe she's probably looking through some of the stuff.
Those are Phyllis.